Hey geeks, welcome to On the Comic Edge, episode 16, brought to you by CompleteGeekRadio.com. Pretty good week for comic books this time around. We're starting off, right off the bat, with New Avengers 13. A lot of people worked on this. Bendis, Deodato, Chaykin, Barado, Delgado. Lots and lots and lots of people. Because it's technically like two comics in one. That's why you have a more verbose comic book. You have a more verbose artist team, because there's two stories running right now. There's the now, and then there's the just post World War II, which is dealing with an original Avengers initiative. If you've been reading, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you really should be reading this book, because it's not your normal Avengers title. It's the characters are a little bit more confrontational. They're not so sure about themselves. I mean, the Avengers group, the Prime Avengers group, they're solid. They don't really butt heads. They're all very, we got this, we got that, we got everything, we're good. This team, not so much. Luke Cage put them together. They're still being funded by Shield, but there's more tension between the characters, not overly so. It doesn't really get in the way of the story. It just adds a little bit of flavor, right? So anyway, we find out that Victoria Hand is we don't know what she's doing. She could be an agent for Hammer. She could be an agent for Shield. She could be a double agent. We don't know. But she's sort of feeding information to both sides. And Steve Rogers trusts her. A few of the members of the Avengers trust her, and a few of the members don't. I think Wolverine trusts her. Wolverine is one of the people that trusts her. Spider-Man's one of the people that don't, just to give you an idea. And Luke Cage, the leader of the team, is just sort of rolling with the punches, trying to get this thing. He's not the most competent leader, but he doesn't have a lot of insight, but he gets the job done. That's his prime concern. Get the job done. And the first job that they had as this new Avengers team, well, the first real Shield-esque job, sort of blew up in their face because Mockingbird is near death. So they're trying to figure out what the hell went wrong, and they come across this whole World War II super soldier project that Nick Fury has some experience with. And it's a pretty good story. I mean, it's a really good story, honestly, because a lot of the characters get to really shine. Hawkeye gets to really show off his stuff. Some of the other characters, but first off, I love the art. The art is just uses shadow in a way that you don't see very often. It adds this enormous weight to certain scenes. It's tangible, and I really do enjoy it. But that's the now. The previous, the past story, it's pretty good. It's not my cup of tea as far as art goes, but it's pretty good. I enjoy it. And you sort of see where the story's going near the end. It's not a huge spoiler, but we sort of see where it's going near the end. And we're left at a bit of a cliffhanger. So it's a good book. I would pick it up. Moving on. Journey in the Mystery 624. Loki is if you've been keeping up on Fear Itself lore, Fear Itself news, he's sprung Thor from the coop. And this, after Thor gets thrown back to Midgard via Earth, we sort of see the fallout of what happens, because there's a bunch of characters there. They don't all just say, okay, scatter. No, there's repercussions, obviously. So, we see Loki and Eichel sort of having this. His crow, by the way, that's his name. His crow is the past Loki. And if you spell Loki backwards, you get Eichel. So, or Ecol. Not sure how you would pronounce that. In any case, the art continues to be fan freaking tastic. The writing is elegant. I think the best word, which is always a good thing for any sort of Asgard story. And we see Loki sort of, from what I can gather, taking all these different places that are connected to his past. Mephisto's hell, Hell's hell, like Hela's hell, which is the Asgardian hell, run by Hel. There's no other way to pronounce it. There's just one L. Hela has one L. Their hell has one. Anyway, read up. Get the prose edda. Just do that. If you're a huge fan of the Thor books, you should be reading, the actual stories. Anyway, regardless, it's a pretty good story, this is a different Loki, and I've said that before. This is a Loki who has an agenda that is not on par with his previous self. He has more of I'm going to use my talents to actually get something good done. And I'm really enjoying it. Not because he's doing something good, but because there just seems to be a little bit more energy behind it. I've read the Loki stories that they've put out in those miniseries. Not the same. He seems very decrepit and sort of rotting on the inside, and that never really flew with me. It didn't really seem to be copacetic with the character. This seems to be a little bit better. It's still continues to be, I think, one of the best Fear Itself spin-offs you can be reading right now. Pick it up. Soulfire #1. I believe it's volume 3. Aspen Comics. If you're a Mike Turner fan, well, if you're a Mike Turner fan, if you know Mike Turner, you're a fan of his work. God rest his soul. By the way, if anyone in their respective cities has has sort of like a fundraiser or an event to raise money or awareness for bone cancer, in his name, just go, do whatever, volunteer. You won't regret it. Fantastic time. These, a lot of the time these cancer organizations really take care of their volunteers well, and it's just a great energy because you find so many people. There's been cancer in my family. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching, there's been cancer in yours. So yeah, go do your part. Okay. And if you're in Toronto, in October, my family has Scare for a Cure, which benefits various cancer foundations. It's a haunted house thing, connects to Halloween. And I may talk about it more on Complete Geek Radio. So check that out. Anyway, back to the comic. JT Krull, Jason Fabok, and John Starr. Now, I was a huge fan of the original run. I was not a fan of the second. The second volume, the story was muddled. In the first, we had it was short because of what was going on with Turner, and the story wasn't exactly built up properly, but it was a good story. And it came to a really cool climactic ending. The second story just seemed to be a little muddled, and I really wasn't sure where they were taking the characters. And there wasn't really any conflict other than this blah, 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 blah. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. This seems to be a little bit more fantastical. You're dealing with the two races that sort of came back into fruition now that magic is back. The Sethoru and the Rathumi. I think that's what they're called. One of them has sort of dragon-like wings, and the other has sort of dragonfly-like wings. You know what? First off, the art is... I love the art. I think they use certain not prime colors. They use certain base colors, red, blue, black, gold. There's some purple, but they use these colors to extreme effect to express emotion and tone, and I'm really, really enjoying it. There seems to be some sort of socio-political unrest between these two races, which I'm really enjoying. I'm hoping now, mind you, there wasn't a hell of a lot of actual meat to this comic. It was sort of like, here's the situation as it stands. So if you're planning on maybe picking up previous, you might want to pick this up. It's what I like to call hybrid fiction, which is a hybrid of fantasy and science fiction. Not science fiction that they don't bother trying to explain, which is technically fantasy, which is technically Star Wars. It's technology, which doesn't really require explanation because the technology is so close to what we're used to. And magic. There hasn't been a lot of explanation of how the magic works. That's just, the magic is back, and it's all over the world. And I'm really kind of hoping that we get a little bit more of what's going on with the magic. I'm using my hands a lot today. I apologize. Apparently Fathom Volume 4 is coming back too, so I might check that out too. It looks pretty cool. You have some incantations at the end, and I'm like, but that you can't actually read because they're in really, really small text and just, runes and stuff. I'm kind of hoping that we get a little bit more explanation of the magic, where the magic comes from, how it works, because magic doesn't just mean unexplained. It's very different. And yeah, I really like stories like that. I like stories that explain how the magic is being done, and the steps, and the variables involved. I guess that's my pagan side coming out. But yeah, check it out. It's a really cool comic. If you're a fan of Michael Turner's work, other than this and Fathom, there really isn't a lot going on. There's other stories that Aspen is putting out that look pretty cool. The Scourge and Mechanica and Charismagic. I'm gonna actually go to 1 Million Comics and get them to get these in, because I'm Charismagic is being written by Jeff Loeb. That's a sell for me right there. Yeah, check out a lot of the stuff Aspen is coming out. It may not be coming to your store, and it may not be something that springs to your eye when you're online and getting your pulls, if that's something you do online. But yeah, in either case, ask for Aspen Comics, because they just tend to be of really good quality. Also, Atomic Robo. Just throwing that out. I don't know why. It's a comic that a lot of people aren't reading that they probably should. Anyway, I've rambled enough. This is Edge saying, for Complete Geek Radio and On the Comic Edge, stay geeky.